All right, so we have started.
Yay.
Um, I'm just interested, what are kind of your initial thoughts reading the book and things like that?
Yeah. So initially, like after reading the book, I can't like pick like what one theodicy that I really like, oh, this is the one that explains suffering. I think like for me, I mesh a lot of them together,
Hmm.
but there is one particular one that I did not like, which is the finite God one.
Yeah.
So that one, because I'm just like that, I was like, first of all, it's philosophers' ideas, but
Yeah.
it's like they're that's all science and of the world or whatnot.
True.
So I just really didn't subscribe to that one at all. And it was just it pained me to read that chapter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think I agree with your point of like, I also found it challenging
Mhm.
to like stick to one, and I think that's also like not the point. So I feel like we're
Mhm.
engaging with it correctly. Um, yeah, and I liked in the last chapter how Rice was describing like how it's more like a mosaic or a quilt, and it's like a
Mhm.
bunch of little pieces all like jumbled together, and that's how we're kind of just making sense of what we're going through.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so what ones like stood out to you more than others? Because Finite God is not for you, but
Not for me at all.
which
So
ones
the
are?
the one I kind of like the most is well, there's two. I think there's Tide. I like this like the soul, what's it called? Soul, not soul tie. It's the soul making, and then I also like the perfect plan. Um I think like when we try to like understand God, like I think it leaves more questions than answers.
Mm-hmm.
And just to know like I don't understand this suffering, but I know it's working in, for my good. And then I just think about like my life experience, like my I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have those trials, like those things that were
Sure.
like super difficult, but like when I look back, like, oh my gosh, I got through that and it's kind of, helped me become who I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, in my reflections too, one of my top ones was also the soul making, the
Mhm.
Odyssey, and similar to how you're saying, like I think there's so much hope and comfort that can be found in like recognizing like God has the power and has the plan to work things out for good.
Mhm.
So yeah, I definitely align with that as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I was thinking like if I came across like a client that's an atheist, like how would you like like how would you talk to them about their suffering?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I also feel like a lot of like what our reflections have been around is like if you just have someone with like a different theodicy,
Mhm.
not necessarily someone who has like no faith.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I feel like my initial response is to lead with curiosity, right? Like
Mhm.
there's like we don't just choose what we choose to do just based on like, oh, I woke up this morning and decided to be an atheist. Like there's
Yeah.
parts of our lives that lead us to that conclusion. And so I would lead with like, okay, what has happened in your life or what has caused you to take this stance?
Mhm.
Um, and then also I think something that I'm learning as a practitioner is like the differentiation between like I can hold my beliefs and like know what I believe to be true, and
Mhm.
also like allow space for my client to hold their own beliefs, whether or not like I agree with them, like I can
Mhm.
understand where they're coming from and not have to
Mhm.
necessarily agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
like
that was
that.
that was kind of my thoughts. I'm curious what you were thinking because you said you were
Yeah.
kind of mulling over that.
Yeah. So I think when I'm in like my clinician space, I kind of have to separate my not necessarily my values, but my religion. And
Sure.
kind of, just honor who they are.
Yeah.
And like you say, kind of give them that space. And just I I think though I know I would struggle with that like internally, not necessarily with my client, but like struggle like, oh my gosh, no, you don't believe in God. Like,
Yeah.
like it's the best thing. And one Uh, but yeah, so I think though, just kind of honoring who they are,
Yeah.
and just allowing them, just just let them know like everyone suffers. Unfortunately, like no one can escape this life without a little suffering.
Yeah.
And yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard not to bring religion up when I like a lot of like my life like revolves around it. Like, I don't know, it's the center of everything. It's the answer to all my problems. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Especially in like context where you're like thinking about suffering a lot. It's like,
Hmm.
I know for me, and it sounds like for you, like that
Hmm.
faith is definitely something that like grounds you and is also like
Hmm.
kind of directs your next steps. So yeah, it is tricky when there's people with like different faith or no faith. And
Yeah.
how do you hold that as well?
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
What else?
Um, what when you think about like suffering in the world,
Hmm.
like in whatever form that comes to mind, what is kind of most challenging to you or like stirs in your heart the most when considering it?
Yeah, like so let's say for instance, what's all going on in Israel and Gaza. Like seeing those children starving and hungry and like seeing that, like it just breaks my heart that, there's so much hatred in the world and it makes me wonder, even though I know I shouldn't, like what purpose does this falls into God's plan? Like how does this serve his plan?
Hmm.
Like I know I usually give an answer to it, right? Like, it's part of his plan. All things work, for the good of the Lord.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of hard to give that explanation when you see a hungry child. Like I can't explain why you are hungry. Like I have no
Right.
explanation for that. But if you hold faith, you
Yeah.
know, you can see glory. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Cause like I know like I like aspects of like
Hmm.
soul making theodicy and stuff where it's like, no, there is like
Hmm.
a reason behind it and there is like something good to come from it. But
Hmm.
yeah, then I think of situations like that or like I think like in the school I see like a lot of like hard family situations and things like that. And it's like this doesn't have any like necessarily purpose. Like from
Yeah.
my perspective, with my understanding as a human being, like
Yeah.
I don't think it has a purpose, but yeah, it's hard to come up with your like practical theodicy of like this and this and
Mhm.
this and this and this. So yeah, I
I
hear
think
that.
what kind of helps me sleep better at night when I know this is like his ways is above my ways. It's not meant for me to understand. And so I think that kind of just helps me like, okay, you don't understand it. And then I also try not to like indulge in so much news and, kind of like just constantly watching like what's going on in the world because maybe we're not meant to see everything. Like
Sure.
not meant to have this phone in my pocket where I can see all the tragic events
Yeah.
happen around the world. So,
Yeah. There's definitely like a level of peace that comes with like, okay, God is big enough for my questions and my doubts, and
mhm.
like,
Yeah.
it's not my job to have the answers. Like,
Mhm.
yes, it's helpful to make sense of kind of what's happening, but we can't make sense of all of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I hear that.
I see. But
So, did you have something?
that's what I'm gonna try to look and see what do I have.
Okay.
I feel like we touched a lot on it, but
Yes. I know something that I've been thinking about a lot is like, I think it's very important to like know like and theorize around like why suffering exists, like
hmm
what we've been talking about with Rice's book
hmm
of like trying to kind of get to the root of it and like what is its purpose. I
hmm
think something that I have like been thinking about and struggling with a little bit is then wondering like, okay, what do we do with the suffering that we have, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like we've been talking a lot about like, oh, like, yeah, what's the reason for suffering? But then there hasn't been many like calls to action within the
Mm-hmm.
text. Not that it's its purpose, but like there's not a lot of like, if you understand this like theological perspective and if you accept it,
Mm-hmm.
then like this is what it would maybe look like lived out in like
Yeah.
meeting people in their suffering. Um,
That'd be
yeah.
that would have been really helpful for him to have on that because
Yeah.
to include
Yeah.
that. Like, yeah. Especially with all the like the examples of all of the families and stuff in the text. It would have been nice for,
Right.
yeah, like you said.
Yeah. Because, yeah, I think he did touch on like, no, like part of what helps us get through suffering is to like have action steps and to do something. Not that
Mm-hmm.
we can like solve it all, but yeah, I think within the text, I would have like appreciated more of that. Like, okay, what do we do now? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
100%. I agree.
yeah,
Let's see some hypotheticals. Like, what would I do in this particular situation?
sure. That's a good
Let's
idea.
see. Okay, so I'm gonna actually go with the one that I disagree with the most because I want to
Okay.
see like what would make me so uncomfortable. So if
Yeah,
someone came to me and was like, "Well, God's not capable of solving that problem. He's not capable of solving like world hunger." How will Ira respond? Would you mind holding 1 second?
absolutely. I'll pause.
Okay. Yeah, so if someone was to, approach me and say like, "Oh, well, God's not capable of that," I would probably ask them like, "What do you like?" Kind of gauge with them like, "What do you think he's capable of?" Like, if you think
Sure.
like he's the creator, like, does he have full reign over this world?
Yeah.
Or what's his limitations? Um, Obviously respect their response and not try to push my values on them.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And kind of to ask them like, well, if you think he's not capable of this, and this is still like your concern, what can you do to kind of, help solve your problem?
Yeah.
And brainstorm that
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah, because I think like similar to you, I had a really hard time with the finite God theodicy, but I think the one thing that I did like take away from it, and
Mm-hmm.
this kind of ties into my last point, is like the like responsibility that's then put on people, of it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like if God is like supposedly not capable to be able to solve this, then like what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So I appreciated that point, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree and align
Yeah.
with you. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's like it's interesting for me like thinking about the perfect plan and the free will
Mm-hmm.
theodicy too, because
Mm-hmm.
like there are aspects of both that I'm like, yes, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's like hard sometimes where it's like considering suffering in its magnitude, like you're saying, like when you were comparing like the situation with like Israel and Gaza and like the starving children, like in both of those situations, it feels like God is kind of like hands off and is just like letting
Mm-hmm.
it go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious kind of like what your thoughts are on like how what is God's role within suffering, considering like either perfect plan or free will,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, one part of the book that I really like where they explain like God kind of knows like every possibility. And that was kind of like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. So I think that kind of ties a role in it. Like the
Yeah,
free will part, like this is happening. Maybe God is not intervening because of the free will, but he's
right.
somehow used this for his greater plan. And I think a lot of times we don't see those things that's happening. So we just kind of see the
Sure.
outside, but God could be moving on a group of people within Gaza to, bring forth his people to salvation. So it's kind of hard
It is.
because
Yeah.
it's like, what I see is like just tragedy everywhere. And like you said, like it feels like God's hands is off of it, but I feel like I have to trust that he is in the midst of it.
Hmm.
Um, I just don't know where.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so
Yeah.
hard. It's so suffering is so hard to make sense of it because I feel like it doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
If my ideal world, there wouldn't be any suffering.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a hard, like something that I've been mulling over, and like it's a hard balance of like sometimes it feels like God's comfort and care is like reactive to like a
hmm
instance of suffering and isn't like in the situation, like in the midst of it.
hmm
And so it's like, okay, if God is like all powerful and like is able to be like everywhere at all times, then it's like, where is he showing up in like those pockets of suffering and pain?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I liked your point about all the different possibilities and
Yeah.
like working the plan for good, for sure.
When I was also reading this book, it kind of made me think about like sometimes like we learn more from our suffering. And I just think about like my daughter, like during the summer program, I always packed her water bottle and I brought it in the car with me. And as I was getting her out the car to her summer program, I'll give her water bottle. Yeah,
Hmm.
I told her, I was like, you're 5. You can pack your own water bottle. You could bring it with you. Um, and one day she just did it. And so I allow her, she had to drink from the water fountain that day.
Right.
And so it's like that suffering of her not having her cold water kind of taught her like, maybe I should pack my water bottle. So I think God is like a parent. He's watching us and kind of, watching us figure it out. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to, suffer to, bring us to our ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That point really reminds me of like, I think it was in the Soul Making Theodicy where they're
Mhm.
talking about like the mothering principle, where it's
Mhm.
like why we're allowed to go through suffering is because it's like there's a benefit that couldn't otherwise be like
Yeah.
obtained, you know? Which
Yep.
I thought that point was very helpful for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
agree.
absolutely. Well, do you have any other kind of closing thoughts on like what you're taking with you into practice or
Mhm.
personal life or anything like that?
Yeah. So I think what I'm going to take from it is that I think it's impossible for us to try to eradicate suffering. It's
Mhm.
something that's going to happen. Um, just trying to make the best of it, and always, like, and I kind of like there was one story in the book where the guy's son passed away, and I want to say it was probably a perfect plan, and a friend of her family just kind of downgraded what it like his experience. And I think just kind of holding space for those families and acknowledging what they're experiencing, that it's hard and that sometimes we don't have the answers for them, but I'm here for you. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the main things that I would take into practice with me.
Yeah, that's
What about
awesome.
you?
Similar to you, I think like I will maintain like an open mind because
Yeah.
like yeah, reading all the theodicies, I was like, oh wow, I don't even have like a solid idea myself.
Yeah.
And so like being open to what people have to say, because that could also broaden my perspective and like my
Yeah.
understanding. Um, and I also definitely agree that it's like being a calming presence and just
hmm
like being able to sit in suffering with people, I think is kind of the best thing we can do.
hmm
Um, Even though it seems like a small thing, like it is pretty substantial. So doing that when I can. And yeah, just being open to learning because we're all just trying to make it through the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. But do you have any other thoughts? Otherwise, I feel good to.
I
close out.
don't, but I definitely appreciate you being my partner and I
Yeah.
enjoyed this conversation.
Yes. Awesome. All right.